Battle of Greasy. The day brought cotton clouds as sunlight began to flood the Little Bighorn Valley, or rather known to the soon shining as Greasy grass. A boy named Deeds, barely 10 years old, was kicking a clumps of buffalo grass while waiting for his brother, Brownback, to round up his grandfather's ponies and get Deeds to drive back to the village. Deeds ended up coming across a box, accidentally dropped so the lid could easily be pried off. Inside the box he found bread. He heard horses. He looked up expecting to see Brownback, but then realized the noise came from behind him. He's got the box! 3 soldiers were riding at Deeds. They aimed and fired their carbines. Before he could run or cry, the boy was struck through the chest. The boy was dead. My name is the Hunky Otake, or Sitting Bull. Deeds was my nephew, and this was the beginning of the Battle of Little Bighorn, also known as Custer's Last Stand, or the Battle of Greasy Grass. Now, let me start from the beginning. Lieutenant Colonel George Custer, or rather as we knew him, Longhair, started his career fighting for the Union in the Civil War. After the Civil War, Longhair was put in charge of a newly formed 7th U.S. Cavalry Regiment and was sent to Kansas in 1866 to combat the Plains Indians. In November 1868, his command ended up coming across and destroying the Black Kettle Village on the Washita River, the majority of which were elders, women, and children. Custer became regarded as America's #1 Indian fighter. In 1874, Longhair was sent to find positions for military footholds and gold in the Black Hills. This, however, disregarded the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1866. In 1876, Longhair was sent to Fort Abraham Lincoln. There he learned that General Alfred H. Terry put in charge of an upcoming Civil War, which he had been specifically forbidden from accompanying. Due to General Terry's inexperience in Indian warfare, he wanted Longhair along. In pleading, Longhair was permitted and was to bring his original command, the 7th Cavalry, which is now joined by about 30 Iroquois Scouts and 5 Crow Indian Scouts. A 3-pronged attack was established. In June, the command started to move out. June 1876. My people camped in the Little Bighorn Valley. The village extended nearly 4 miles north to south with 7 great camp circles over a half-mile each in diameter. There were many great leaders in the Little Bighorn Valley village, which ended up being the largest Indian encampment ever seen on the North American continent, and upward of 12,000 people, a third of which were fighting men. In camp, we were following our ancient traditions, following the buffalo herds west. Since the discovery of the Black Hills, though, we were marked enemies of the U.S. who were to be hunted. Early summer was the time of the annual Sundance. Sioux and Cheyenne would gather to give penance to Wankatanga, the great mystery that always guided the Indian. I received a vision after the ceremony. The Indian would receive a great victory over the white man. June 17, Rosebud. In searching for a great Indian camp, General Cook came into contact with it was driven back south by Sioux warriors on a crazy horse. This was a great victory for my people, but I sensed something greater was to come. After the battle, Iroquois Scouts picked up a trail leading from Rosebud to the Little Bighorn Valley. Longhair was told to take his command and follow it. Then he positioned himself as the village between him and Gibson's forces would simultaneously march upstream. The plan was to attack on Monday, June 26th. On June 22nd, Longhair set out. On June 24th, I prayed. Wankatanga, hear me and pity me. I want to live. Guide them against all misfortune and danger. I beg you, take pity on us. I returned to the village certain that we have another great victory over the white man. June 25th, 1876. Worrying about a possible retreat, for they had already been spotted when Deeds had found the munitions box, Longhair marched his command overnight to grow close enough to position an attack. A bugle sounded the officer's call. He gave his command the final marching orders for the day. His manner displayed no lack of confidence. Longhair called out to one of the Crow Scouts to lead the way, and within minutes the valley of Little Bighorn lay before them. After about a mile or so, he stopped his advance and divided his regiment into 3 main groups. He sent Captain Frederick W. Benton and 3 companies off southwest to head off any attempt to escape by the Sioux of the Little Bighorn Valley. He left 1 company behind to serve as a pack train. He sent Major Marcus A. Reno and another 3 companies across the head of a small creek known as Upper Ash Creek. The final 5 companies remained under Custer's personal command. It was around 7 minutes past noon when Reno and Longhair's forces moved out, staying within shouting distance of each other, following parallel paths across Upper Ash Creek. Reno's command crossed the Little Bighorn shortly after 2:30 p.m. Longhair was a full 3/4 of a mile behind Reno as he reformed his attack formation. It took about 10 minutes. 1 company and Indian Scouts were on the left front. 2 companies followed behind in columns of 4. 1 company followed in reserve. The attack force was altogether 133 men, 21 being scouts. It was around then that Brownback burst into my council lodge bringing word of Deed's murder. The village turned into an uproar. Warriors dashed for their ponies. Women and children rushed out of the village. One bull reached our family lodge just before me. I exchanged his muzzle loaded for a stone-headed warrior club and hung my rawhide shield over his shoulder. It wasn't just for protection, but a badge of a chief's authority. I told him, "You will take my place. Go out and meet the soldiers. Parley with them if you can. If they're willing, tell them I'll talk peace with them." One bull looked at me doubtfully as firing sounded, and a bullet struck one of the teepee poles. One of the soldiers refused to talk peace on him. "Then go right in. Don't be afraid. Go ahead." Young warriors surrounded one bull as he held my shield high. He led them over a hill to meet the soldiers, holding his hand high in a sign of peace, but the soldiers opened fire. My nephew quickly led our warriors to a countercharge. To his right, Chief Blackman led a larger sum of warriors to save part of the pony herd, threatened by the rock breaks. I rode through the camp shouting, "Brave up! We have everything to fight for! If we are defeated, we'll have nothing left to live for! Fight like brave men! Brave up!" Crazy Horse exited his tent and shouted, "My friends, remain cold and fight until your last arrow and shell are released. Remember that the women and children will be in great danger if the soldiers reach our village. Once you're mounted, follow me. Hayupa, come on!" Then the Sioux attacked. The robbers forgot about taking the ponies and fell back. Reno halted his troops, and as he did, Chief Blackman turned his forces to Reno's left flank. Holes started to open as frantic soldiers rode into the Sioux charge. Eventually, Reno ordered his command to get off their horses in favor of being on foot. He tried to be on the defensive, but he's already outmatched with a 10-1. He eventually made his way across the river to some bluffs where he tried to make a stand. He lost about half his battalion on the way. Eventually, he ordered for one bull to let the remainder of Reno's command to run away. Let them live to tell the truth about this fight. Longhair now prepared to ascend upon the village. He turned to his trumpeter. "Orderly, I want you to take a message to Captain Ben. Ride as fast as you can and tell him to hurry. Tell him it's a big village and I want him to bring the ammunition packs with him." Trumpeter Martin would be the last white man to see Longhair and his command alive. Longhair ordered his charge on Medicine Tail leading towards the river. As he did, hundreds of mounted Native American warriors led to meet the new charge. The firing started. As they got closer, more soldiers started to drop. Then, at midstream, Custer, the renowned Indian killer who had been seen as invincible, was struck through the left side of his chest, a mortal wound. His soldiers started to retreat. They eventually made their way back out of a ridge into some hills where they decided to try and make a stand. His companies split into two while trying and failing to secure defensive positions. Company C and F, sustaining the least casualties, tried to get over a hill and escape. They were cut off by Crazy Horse and 1,000 Indian warriors. Within half an hour's initial charge, Custer's command had been completely wiped out. Nearby, what remained of Reno and Bennett's forces began to dig trenches. Native warriors ascended upon them the next day. Both sides came to a standstill. It wasn't until I came that the fighting stopped. "Enough! These soldiers are trying to live, so let them live. Let them go. If we kill them all, a bigger army will march against us." The Battle of Greasy was over. The Battle of Little Bighorn was revolutionary in the fact that it was the largest defeat the U.S. has ever witnessed at the hands of Native Americans. The following reaction would be the more harsh and expanded force used in the relocation of Native Americans and reservations. Americans started to have a more harsh viewpoint of Native Americans. Custer had become a martyr. Reforms would follow. Things like Native American reservations became more strict. Eventually, things like Native American boarding schools became established for the assimilation of Native Americans. Recently, the Trump administration ordered for signage to be removed from the Little Bighorn Memorial, showing this as an everlasting impact in history. This was the beginning of the end of the Indian Wars. This is when Native American customs started to come to an end. This was the Battle of Greasy Grass.